comes down to this play. Sanders gets the feet set toward the end zone. For the game,
Yo, what's up, guys? My name is Hayes alongside Harrison Simeon, and we are back after a 1-week hiatus for episode 3, season 2 of the SportsCast SportsCast. And today we have a special guest. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, what up, guys? My name is Mason LeBeau. I've been writing for SportsCast Sports for a minute now, this season, covering the Buffs. My first season on campus in a second. So I'm really living up the hype around the team. Thankful that we're winning some games. So excited to be here, guys. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, of course, man. I think I want to introduce you a little bit more, get a little bit like history, a little background on you. I guess I got a notification coming in, whatever. But anyways, a little background on you. What's your kind of like writing history? What's kind of your journalism path so far? What do you kind of, hope to be and just things along that line?
Yeah, it's mostly just been freelance, so it's kind of cool to finally be a part of something where we're all kind of like on a schedule. We got a team. You guys have been doing a great job at SportsCast Sports, doing not just football, but everything on campus. So it's really cool to see everything you guys are putting together. So I'm just excited to be a part of that. So I've been writing about the Buffs for a couple years now, on and off, most consistently this year. I've mostly been doing NFL stuff. That's kind of where my first love was. But as I've been getting older, I've been getting more into the college game. And since CU's been relevant, they've been fun to write about. So as much as I've loved CU in years past, this is the first time where writing about them actually feels like we're talking to the everyone, not just people in Boulder or a local Colorado scene. So otherwise, keeping up with all things football. I just love football. I coached down at Fairview. If you're in Boulder, coached the freshman team there as an assistant. So if we're talking about football, man, I'm here to talk about whatever we got.
Well, yeah, let's get into it. I've been a bad host. I haven't let my co-host,
It's all good.
get in any words. So, I'll let you take it away.
No, it's great to hear from you, Mason. And, there were two games that we have to catch up on, as we actually did record an episode last week. It just had technical difficulties and was nearly impossible to upload. Thankfully, this week should be a bit better, as there were two games that went, one wasn't looking very good in the middle. Before the Buffs, both wins against Colorado State and Baylor. We'll mostly talk about Baylor today. But Mason, what did you see from the Colorado State game that you really maybe promised you or concerned you? And then how did that carry into Baylor?
So Colorado State was a great step forward because we went into that game not really knowing what Buffs we're going to get. That was definitely a winnable game that went how it should. But coming off that Nebraska loss, it was hard to know if we were going to fall into the same traps, even against a lesser opponent. Last year, we didn't play CSU so great, took into overtime to get that win. It was an exciting win, but we weren't playing up to our standards. And so that Nebraska game kind of left me, and I think most people shook, that we weren't going to go into that game and take care of business like we should have. We get in there, our defense steps up. That's been the strong point of the team so far. They limit CSU to, I think, just 3 points in the end, just from that first quarter. And the offense still kind of struggled to get going, but as soon as they picked up steam easier there, we took care of business. That was necessary. As exciting as it was to go into CSU's field and beat them like we did, I was more relieved than anything that we just looked like the team that we were supposed to against a rival. And I guess we carried that confidence into Baylor because, again, even though it was looking really bad, that was a better opponent, and we took care of business in the end. It took a prayer. It took a literal Hail Mary, but we did it in overtime. We fell into a lot of the same traps, but we've been good at keeping it close. And apparently with this regime, if we can just keep it till the end, we can keep it close. We always have a shot.
I mean, yeah, I definitely agree with that, especially with the talent on the offensive side of the ball. I know you've had some thoughts about Colorado State, Harrison. Kind of ripping off what Mason said. What do you think?
Well, yeah, no, I did enjoy the game. It was kind of I called it top to bottom the best win of the Coach Prime era. for
easily.
Colorado, just because, even against Nebraska last year when the Buffs really started hot or really, took control of that game and ended up winning by 3 touchdowns. It wasn't a fast start by any means. It took some time, took to the second half to really pull away, to feed off the turnovers. And while we were finally able to force turnover, the Buffs were finally able to force turnovers, I, still am looking now after Baylor for the consistency in the defense. And I'm hoping that, the second halves that we've seen from Colorado defensively can continue, because a lot of these better teams in the Big 12 aren't gonna just, start fast and end slow every time. It's gonna be a wall-to-wall effort that it'll take to end up competitive in the conference. So Colorado State really promising. Baylor, I wasn't sadly able to watch even a lick of that game, though I have a funny story if we'll get onto that later about how I was able to keep up with that win. And I kind of had some FOMO, honestly, just not being able to be there with you. And if you want to talk about your experience for just a little bit, unless you wanted to do that later, or just maybe Mason's thoughts on the game as a whole, or
I mean, I guess I mean, the real quick thing I'll offer about Colorado State was just, you talked about the defense and how they need to continue their prowess. I thought they were, super impressive with that in that game with the turnovers, like you said, but also, with the slow start, like the Buffs, like 2 first half touchdowns, were scored on drives where there was a big penalty that kind of kept the drive alive,
yeah.
or gave them big yardage. So I thought that, the defense playing as well as they did. And before last game, only having gave up 9 points through 6 quarters. That was just fantastic because that ultimately fueled the offense to the second half, I feel like. And then, went to Baylor. Of course, there were some of the same traps, like you said, Mason. But going into, our experiences of it, yeah, I guess we'll, start with you, Mason. Where were you watching, or were you at the game, or?
No, I have a little FOMO too because I only got to catch the second half. I was working the first half, and by that point we were already down. And up until the Hail Mary, I was just barely hanging on because I was like, Colorado could pull something off, but this looks really bad right now. And to start in the Big 12 like that would be rough. So I feel because as soon as they stormed the field, I was like, that is the one game I should have made an exception and just like did everything I could to get out there. But I just watched the game at home otherwise, so I kind of want to hear what you guys had about that.
Well, I guess I mean, I kind of want to start with you.
Okay. Yeah.
With your weird story, and then we'll get to the person who actually was there and watched the whole thing.
Well, yeah. So sadly, or I guess not sadly, because it was an amazing experience independent of the game. Just the game itself would have been cool to be at. But I was at my girlfriend's dad's wedding out of town in Texas. So that was quite an experience having to, at the reception was the entire time the game was happening. So we were trying to refresh Safari in this venue that had essentially no Wi-Fi. Um, so we had to like go by in the front by like the bathrooms where we could finally get a little better Wi-Fi, or like go in the front, like in front of the building itself. And just every few minutes, either she or I would, be like, oh, let's check what's happening. And it was a long wait to see that the comeback kind of, inch its way into happening. I know there were a few plays that you can speak on the nuance of, with some of Travis Hunter's big catches, some of stuff that we saw out of the run game from Michael Welch. And there were, the defense again, just stepping up in the second half, not letting that game get out of hand as we started to see. And, everything I heard about in the first half wasn't really about the defense either. It was about the special teams. So I wanted you to get into that as well with, from Jace Feely's injury to the big kick returns and punt returns. But ultimately, at the very end, we were, sitting down and noticing, oh, okay, they got, what was it like when they got the ball back? How much time was left?
It was like 2:16, I think, was left on the
Yeah.
clock.
So, and then there was this little cousin of hers that was sitting there that was like, oh yeah, Colorado's gonna lose. I'm like, it's not over till it's over. And I ended up going by the bathrooms to just keep scrolling, and then I saw, 2 seconds at the 43 of them. So I'm like, okay, what's gonna happen? We keep refreshing, and then the clock on the little Safari Gamecasts it says 0, and I'm like, I don't know, it must have just been over, but keep it there, keep refreshing because it doesn't say what exactly happened, it doesn't say final, and then all of a sudden it just jumps 30, and I'm mind blown, and I'm like, whoa, 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 look up what happened, and then I see the Hail Mary, and I'm just blown away all of a sudden. Being able to force that overtime. And then in the overtime, we went down, scored, and and then they get to the 2 yard line. We keep refreshing and it says first and goal at the 2 for Baylor. And I'm just like, okay, we'll keep going. I'll go get a water from the concession stand. And as I'm walking up, or as I'm about to walk up, my girlfriend just goes, fumble, fumble. And because she's refreshing Brian Howell's Twitter feed too, so she's able to see like what is happening on the plays. And I almost like sink to the floor, like, whoa, this game has gotten completely out of hand that, I had no idea what it would have gotten that way. And then the review happens. I didn't see that they stormed the field until after I got home because my phone had died. Also, I forgot, I left that out, but my phone had died well before it had even gotten close to the end of the game. So it was, all on hers, and seeing that happen, finally seeing all our coverage, that was truly amazing. I was really, proud of all the coverage we had of that moment and the game. Seeing it at 1 in the morning, scrolling, seeing the fans storming the field before the game had even been called was just, an indescribable feeling. And while it would have been cool to be there, I obviously can't say I regret going on the trip or anything. Uh, but overall, I think it was an amazing win. And, I guess we'll go back to your video. You were right there for the last play and
Yeah.
that fumble. So what can you say about that play and then everything leading up to it, obviously?
Yeah, no, I mean it was crazy because you to prepare for the press conference, everyone gets down to the field. A lot of the journalists do. Although some stay in the press box due to the rain, the weather. If you talk to Jake Shapiro, our faculty member, ask Go Buffs, he'll tell you he knew it was going to happen. The most pessimistic Buffs reporter knew that they were going to come back. So, I guess that tells you something about that game. But anyways, I was down there. It was pouring rain. I was absolutely drenched. It was awesome because I was covering the game with, our very own Nick Evans, and it was his first game. So, just a great experience for him. Could be a better first game. And I was kind of getting deja vu a little bit to CSU.
Well, that was the first game I covered.
Yeah, that was the first game you
Well,
covered.
I had done Fox with Nebraska, but that wasn't with Go Buffs.
Yeah,
The
so
first
it was
game I ever did with Go Buffs was, a similar scenario.
Yeah, so there was that, and I think it was Patrick's first game as well, and that was just an absolutely bonkers game. And I left that one. I was like, there's not going to be a better game I cover, as far as bus football, unless they somehow, complete their promises and end up in the national football college football playoff.
Or at least a bowl game, yeah.
But anyways, I was down there and I was just wondering what was going to happen. Everyone is super pessimistic behind us. Fans are screaming. They were really upset, when Will Shepherd dropped uh, what looked like it would have been the game tying Hail Mary. It looked like he would have caught it and been able to reach in. Um, I mean, it seemed over. The energy in that stadium was so low because I mean, being that close to tying the game and then not doing so, why in any way would you feel like you'd get another chance? So, I thought that was interesting, and they took a timeout, so everything took a little longer in between, and And eventually they line up, and you see Travis Hunter to the right, and you're thinking they're going to go there, especially with like the right-handed quarterback. Um, and then he rolls left, sets his feet, somehow gets the ball off with this like a split second before he gets absolutely clobbered and makes it to the end zone in the rain over. It was probably over 50 yards from where he released the ball. I'd have to look it back. And then of course LeJontay Wester making a great catch. Because I don't know. Initially, I didn't want to celebrate or think that
Yeah.
happened just because I feel like a lot of times with a catch against the body, especially when you're diving, it can slip between the elbows and be incomplete. And so of course you see the replay and you're like, that's a catch automatically, and it was just straight delirium from there, and there was no way that Colorado wasn't going to win that game, which then of course set up the play which you were talking about with the fumble, which everyone has been talking about, and I was right there, right where the ball rolled out of the back of the end zone. So, I mean, for me, I knew immediately that that play stood. So I wasn't worried about, fans rushing the field or anything like that. Just because, of course, there was like a little bit of doubt. You don't want to jump the gun, but being right there, I saw when the ball popped out of the running back's hands. And of course, it didn't matter where, that it rolled out the back of the end zone, but the fact it happened right there, I was like, yeah, the Buffs won the game. And so it was a little weird because it was like, what if it does come back? Because at that point, the field goal posts were already down. Uh,
Yeah.
Players were running off the field because people were running up to Shador and, just, oh, Shador, perfect timing, Shador, perfect time. And so there was all that to worry about. But, I
And
mean,
Travis thought walking
yeah,
like a dog.
Travis, he crawled off like a dog, like the Akai Sinat told him to do. So that was interesting. But I mean, it was just a crazy experience. Um, so yeah, I feel bad because kind of been talking a lot, but I want to
No,
get more into Mason's thoughts about the
great.
game. Of course, there were special teams. We've talked about the defense a little bit. Talked about the heroics, but kind of the gritty things. Uh, what do you think the Buffs need to improve on to heading to UCF, which is expected to be an even rainier game? And
Yeah.
this
Yeah, no, you guys are totally good. Those are awesome perspectives. I was going to ask you what it was like being on the field when it got stormed twice, technically.
I mean, I'm just trying to get to the press conference because
Yeah.
there's a little, you feel a little FOMO, especially as like a student journalist, where you're like,
Yeah.
damn, I wish I was there. Because I remember my first, like, the only time I've ever stormed, the field was there were
The
1 in
cow.
11
Yeah,
years.
that's same here.
So, I remember that, and that was sick. So both times I was like, damn, I wish, but yeah, either way, it was sick. Really,
And I don't think CU fans are getting enough credit because we're getting a lot of crap for storming the field kind of often, which is a little fair, but they technically kind of cleared out enough to let them review that game so we could storm it the second time. They didn't really show how well they cleared it, and they took down the goalpost. But like in a way, we kind of cleared out. Like I feel like there's a lot of fan bases that would not have left the field.
yeah, either way, I mean, I think, it definitely would have been a 15-yard penalty, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah,
it's starting from the 40 on the next, or actually, would Baylor would have gotten the ball back, so would they have started 15 yards closer?
Maybe.
I guess I'd have to look, but either way, um, n- or no, I don't know.
No, Baylor would have gotten the ball.
Either way, too many, I don't know, whatever rules. It was just, yeah, it was
yeah,
a little,
that'd have
but
been a mess to sort out. But I'm
Snap.
glad you saw it because I was in the same boat where with both the Hail Mary and the fumble, like I wanted to like freak out, and I was like, I'm gonna wait for the replay first because both of those were so insanely close to going either way that from the TV broadcast I couldn't tell.
yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I thought one thing that was cool is that after one replay, it was like, okay, for sure.
Yeah, it was pretty quick. You could tell, which thank
Um,
God, because that would have been really stressful if it was going to be like a Des caught it situation where it's like it's close, but it wasn't, it go either way.
yeah, exactly. But anyway, I want to, get into the gritty things, like I said. I want to, know the things that you noticed, even though you weren't able to catch the full game. Um, or kind of if it suits you better, how do you think the Buffs, what do they need to do to take on UCF?
Yeah, so I went back and watched the game, so I still kind of have a pretty good idea. But This UCF game is going to be really interesting. This is going to be our first real test. Baylor was a good test by all means, but UCF is currently like one of the better teams in the nation right now. They're 3-0. They currently have the best rushing attack in the nation. So this is like a complete yin-yang game where these guys run the hell out of the ball and they have a good run defense, but they don't really pass an overt amount, and we do, and their passing defense is kind of susceptible. So we're going to see a situation where two different styles is going to kind of go at it. Historically, the better running team will win. So they have every advantage. It's at home. It's going to be in a rainier situation. Those things really benefit the passing game, or the run game rather. And so we gotta hope that that rain lets up at some point, because we are going to have to beat them through the air, and we're going to have to start fast to do it. So UCF played TCU last week. That's been their only real game too. They won 35-34. It was really close, and it's the exact same situation where TCU threw the ball a lot, barely ran. Same situation as us. They ran for barely over 50 yards. Their main running back had like 30, but their quarterback, who I think his name's Hoover, who's not as good as Shedeur Sanders, threw it for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, right? So we have a real shot. The lines right now are that UCF is 15.5 point favorites. That's crazy to me. I get it. That's probably fair, realistically, and it might happen. But if we can throw it effectively, and especially if we can break our own trend, this is the big thing. If we can't start fast and they just get a lead on us in the first quarter, I mean, they could run us out of the game, and that's totally valid. But if we can start fast for once, just for one time, this is the game to do it, because then if we can make TCU or UCF back off their run game, which is really good, make them pass a little bit more, we have a much better chance. Or we have a good defense. We have a defense that can potentially slow them down. But if they can just develop their run game from the beginning, it'll probably be over by the first quarter.
Yeah, I think, last year there was the run defense was far worse than they were this year. And anybody could run the ball against them, and a lot of fast starts running the ball, where we saw drives where there'd be one pass, two passes on an opening score.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, like, if this was last year's iteration of the defense, that line would make a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
now, you look at how Nikhai Hill-Green and Levante Bentley have come together as a linebacker pair. I think by PFF grade, they're third in run defense among all national linebacker duos, which is pretty unforeseen territory in terms of how our defense has been graded in statistics and stuff like that. So another thing I wanted to mention about that TCU game, UCF scored 28 of their 35 points in the second half. So it's going to be a huge test about our second half defense and how they can, if they can stop UCF early, that can open things up for the offense that, was pretty balanced. The TCU scored 21 in the first, 13 in the second half. But if, like you said, that game can end up in a conceptual battle between the pass and the run. It's going to come down to how the defense can play 60 minutes at a time and not, and continue that trend of playing better in the second half than the first half. So I think that's going to be a huge factor, and I'll let you continue.
Yeah, that's a really great point. It's interesting looking at their second half statistics, because I think in each game they've only given the most amount of points they've given up in a second half is only a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. So they've shown that they're capable of doing this. Just at this point, it's really, is UCF's run game really that good? And at this point, I don't think, as you mentioned, they've only had the one real game against TCU. So it'll be interesting to see if it comes to fruition. Because I thought that NDSU ran the ball a lot. I thought Baylor ran the ball a lot. But then this team, I think they haven't ran it less than 50 times in a game this year. So it's interesting how the Buffs' schedule has played out, I guess, and you do wonder. When you look at the teams that they scheduled, I guess, if there was any, emphasis on getting teams that run the ball a little bit more for non-conference play. I mean, of course, the rivalry games you're going to get those, but when picking NDSU, you do wonder a little bit. So I think the run game is really just going to be the story of this one. But Mason, obviously the offense they've been really stagnant at points this year. The run game's kind of gotten a little better. Of course, with Michael Welch, it'll be interesting with Downhain coming back and stuffing up the running back room a little bit more. But what do you think the Buffs need to do to have a consistent flowing offense for a whole 60 minutes, as Harrison said?
Yeah, and Harrison brought up a good point about how TCU scored a lot more in the second half. That was going back to my point of we need to start fast because TCU actually got a 14-0 lead on them and then a 21-7 point lead. CU has not had a first half lead outside of the North Dakota game, like at all, I don't believe. And so that kind of goes to show how good UCF is at running the ball, is that they've been behind and they still keep turning out yards. So it's going to be a full 60-minute game for us, where even if we do manage to get an early lead, they're going to keep running and we have to keep our offense flowing, like you said. So not only do we have to get off to a good start, but we're just going to have to find ways to extend the run game, maybe not through the run game, right? Like we're going to have to just be a little bit more willing to pass the ball short, pass the ball through screens, anything that can be like an extension of the run game from the pass. Because right now we're not running it very effectively. I think Hayden might be back. Maybe that's if are we expecting him to be? So
I think he pretty much confirmed it
right.
Tuesday. So yeah, he is expected to be back as far as I know.
We got to figure out if we want to do a thing where we run for running backs and just keep each guy fresh, or if we want to commit to one of these guys like Hayden and see if they can get something going. Because right now, anything we've been doing with the run game hasn't really been working. And again, UCF has a good run defense. They've been basically taking other teams' run game away just through game script. So if we get into that one-dimensional side of things, Shedeur Sanders is going to pass the ball a lot. Now, this is where I'm excited about this game because I think we do have a legitimate advantage. UCF does not have a good pass defense at all. So in that TCU game, their quarterback threw it 52 times. And in those 52 pass attempts, UCF forced 0 interceptions, 0 sacks. We have a real chance there because we have an offensive line that's clearly struggling. We're shifting them around. Dion said that he wants to have 8 guys rotating in and out like a basketball lineup, which is a decision, but obviously we're struggling. So maybe that's something that kind of does work. UCF is not the type of team to take advantage of a bad offensive line, and they're not the type of team to really slow down the passing attack. So in reality, if we have a better passing attack than TCU, which I'm going to go on a limb and say we do, there's a real chance that we can run them out of their own building if we can build an early lead and then just keep it going through the passing game. And again, don't just take deep shots, start doing quick stuff that will essentially be our run game. I think if we take high percentage shots to the lower side of to the quick side of the field, we can basically bleed UCF out of time, but we haven't been good at that. So while there is a path for us that I think is realistic, it's not things that we've been doing. And so this is an opportunity for us to do those things because UCF isn't good at defending them.
Yeah, I think one thing against Baylor that stood out to me was the time of possession, despite the
Yes.
points. So hopefully that is replicated, but points are what matter at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how long you have it, but it is a big point of emphasis, as you said. Just managing that game because we've seen this offense be absolutely nuclear, especially with that start against NDSU. And we've seen them, I mean, be absolutely pitiful at times. And we've kind of seen that, pretty much throughout at least one time or another in every game, in every week so far. So it'll be interesting to see. I think we're probably heading towards the end of this interview. So I'm thinking we should probably get to score predictions.
Good plan.
So Mason, what do you have in store?
Oh man, see, there's either reality where CU can outpass them, and I would say we would win like something ridiculous like 41-37. And then there's a reality where we can't stop the run game and we're just passing all game and we're doing dumb mistakes and we lose like 31-7. So I'm gonna pretend like this is CU's game to win, and pull the upset, as the CU alum that I am. And I'll go with 41-37. The over under on this game's high. So even if they're pretty heavy favorites, they expect a lot of scoring.
Okay, I mean, I think that's interesting.
Oh,
I like that.
See, I have a different view of things because of I know the game isn't expected to be hit by a hurricane, but I know weather will most likely be a factor because
That's
we're
true.
all
That's a good point.
outskirts of rain and that's just a rainy area to begin with in Orlando. So I think that weather will be a factor. I think the run game and ball control for UCF will be the game plan, in really trying to test the front seven of the Buffs. So I'm thinking a more low scoring affair. I don't maybe, I'm thinking more a sloppy, ugly game, even though neither team has had too big an issue with turning the ball over. Um, I think it may just be Mark Bissett versus whoever their punter is, or it would be, or it's not on ESPN, just their kicker is. But uh, I think it could turn into a lot of punts, a bit of a punt fest. So it's going to be on Pat Shermer to, maybe get creative with some of the play calling, exploiting their secondary. And, you know, just to give them credit, they have another legit win in my book in Sam Houston. They absolutely dominated them. And Sam Houston has played very well in each of their other three games other than UCF. So I'll give UCF credit for having two impressive wins, and maybe that is part of the reason why the line is the way it is. And they have a running back in RJ Harvey who, through three games, has more rushing yards by over 100 yards than any single buff running back has had in the prime era. So 448 yards, he already emerging as one of the better running backs in the country. 8 touchdowns in 3 games is, despite it being in two of the three being in non-conference play, any running back has 8 touchdowns in that kind of setting is high school-esque. That's really dominant. So it's going to be on the Buffs to really, rally on Harvey, and then they also have, two other running backs with 20 plus carries that are averaging, nearly 7 yards a carry or over that. So it's going to come down to the run game, and I think the weather could be a factor, but I think that if the play calling can be, creative enough, and if the defense can force maybe just one or two turnovers, that the Buffs can pull the upset. And I'm thinking 24-20.
Yeah, I think Harrison's score realm is more is his score is more in the realm of what I'm thinking due to the weather and just the nature of UCF running the ball so much. And especially if, Colorado does do what you hope them to, Mason, and as far as um kind of playing a slow game, keeping it short and stuff like that. To kind of be able to set up the deep ball. I do think that this game is probably more than likely going to be on the lower side of things, especially if the defense does kind of play how they have the whole year. But I say I like your score prediction, Mason, because I mean these are buffs we're talking about. I feel like every time you turn them on, even when they lost last year, it was one score games. They were coming back. They were giving up comebacks. They were losing in overtime. And this year, off to a better start. Well, I guess same record as last year, but either way, I like that score prediction. I think if the Buffs are, I feel bad because we kind of say this at each week. This is the week that the Buffs need to show us what they're made of.
Yeah.
They're
They got to
still,
keep proving it. So
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's still just such a mystery at this point. I
A
feel like.
win at this point would certainly put them in the combo for a top 25 spot, though. I think
I,
that would be the
yeah,
legit,
honestly.
like, push from, a solid win that was by a Hail Mary, a dominant win against a Mountain West school, and, NDSU. that was also a close game. So I think if we can, pull off a win here, no matter in what fashion we do it, it will be, taken a lot more seriously than than Baylor and ESU or Colorado State.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I don't know about top 25.
I
That'd
think
be
I
that'd
think
be
we get votes. I think we
that'd be
get
an interesting
votes.
stretch. But I mean, I think didn't we already get one vote? Didn't they already get one vote in the poll? I think
The
one.
first 2 weeks we got
Yeah.
votes.
So
Or yeah,
They want
preseason.
to put us there. That's where the ratings are. They want us top 25.
exactly. So I mean, you know, I know the game isn't rigged, but some people think it is. Maybe the fix it, and I don't know. Either way, like I said, the Buffs they always have some fun whenever they're on the field, and I think the rain may just create some more turnovers instead of just straight up running the ball. So I'm expecting some turnovers, maybe a forced fumble, a scoop and score, potentially an interception here and there, a pick six. That'd be interesting for the Buffs. Um, so I'll go right in between you guys, but I think UCF is going to be more prepared for the rain. I'll say UCF wins. Um, 35. I think that score is decent, and probably to 31, 35 to 31 UCF.
So that's our first score prediction by anybody that hasn't had the Buffs winning.
Yeah, I mean we had Aiden in the Nebraska week in
Oh
our
yeah.
scope of sports like Big 12 pick'ems, but
I guess on the pod.
on the pod, yeah,
I
no,
maybe there's a little delusion and like Mason said, being going here, that's making me lean the Buffs, but I think it'll be on this first and second down defense and just trying to, maybe bend and not break if they're able to move the ball because they have confident quarterback play too in KJ Jefferson. Can't discount that if they're able to maybe contain the running game. But I think the Buffs are actually in a decent spot.
yeah, I think like that's why I keep the game close. I mean I don't expect really either team to kind of break away with it. Um, but I don't know. I feel like more often than not I pick the Buffs to win, and there definitely is that little bit of bias of going to CU. And I mean, why would you not, if you're a student there, why would you not want them to win? Of course, even though you're a journalist and staying objective, trying to stay objective. So I mean, objectively, I feel like to me, it's like UCF should win this game. Undefeated, they have the momentum. I feel like they're probably more apt for the rain because you mentioned Orlando. That's my mom's name. Orlando, is more they get more rain than Colorado. I
And
mean,
just the fact that they're at home.
yeah, exactly. They're at home. They run the ball, so as we mentioned, that's going to be a plus for them. And so I really think that this is going to be it seems like a horrible matchup for the Buffs. As far as their defense, which they've had to heavily rely on to this point of the season. And so unless the offense can somehow get the passing game going in the rain against a team that kind of got tore up by the pass, as you mentioned, Mason, that creates that possibility, that creates that fun aspect, which I think is why it's going to be close. But I don't know, just really to me, I mean, just kind of all odds. I feel like are kind of pushing against the Buffs, but I mean that's kind of what they like, I guess. And I mean, not I guess we know that as a fact. That's
Yeah.
they say that they like it, and
They're keeping receipts.
You
yeah,
guys make really good points, and they're favorites for a reason. But another Denver football team was just double or heavy underdogs last weekend, and they pulled out a win in Florida, mind you. So I'm just saying, sometimes we win games that we're not supposed to, and drop the ones that we shouldn't. And last point, Harrison, you mentioned it might be a punter battle. We might be in trouble if it is because UCF's punter is Mitch McCarthy, number 40. He is 6'5", 230 out of Melbourne, Australia, and he went to Pro Kick High School. So he looks really intimidating for what a punter should be.
I,
So
I need him versus Mark Reset in a steel cage. That's all I'm
yeah,
saying.
it might be our best chance. So hopefully it's not a punting battle. That could be problematic for us.
but yeah, no punting battle. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't for CU's sake. Any special teams play, they need to avoid at all costs.
That's very
They're
true too.
But the punting could be fun. I mean, punting in the rain and the wind is tough. So I mean, yeah, there could be some interesting
That
things
could be
happening.
what lead to the turnovers you mentioned.
That's a good, yeah, that is where the turnovers would come from.
So yeah, no, I like a game like this though. I like it when two teams are able to battle in just no circumstances to just show who's better. But on the other hand, I do like it when there's a lot of interesting factors at stake and maybe a team wins a game that they wouldn't necessarily won otherwise. Um, so yeah, but we've appreciated having you on, Mason. I feel like we need to bring you back at some point.
Definitely.
Maybe to talk about basketball or something like that. Or
Yeah, it'd be fun.
There's still a lot of games left. There's still plenty to preview.
Football left to be played for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, whatever we can, whenever we can get you back soon, we'll find a way.
Awesome.
So,
Appreciate you guys. No, it's fun. Thank you for having me on.
yeah, of course, man. So, yeah, I guess, we'll keep doing what we're doing and we'll let you get back to the grind. So,
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
yeah, have a good one.
Have a good one, Mace.
So moving on from football, it was a pleasure having Mason on, of course, but we got to talk about the other sports here at CU.
Briefly,
real quick, yeah, because we got some places to be, but they deserve the love as well. So I mean, where should we start? I guess volleyball, soccer.
I think we should start with your new podcast.
I mean,
I think men's and women's basketball practice starting up. I was at the women's practice. I have a couple things to mention about that. But obviously, if you want to hear about his experience at practice and, talking to players like Julian Hammond and, getting to know Trevor Baskin and everything else in that realm, go check out In the Heyday with Oliver Hayes. That is, out now on our YouTube. Definitely highly recommend. Really well put together pod, if I must say. And if you had anything to just mention, real.
No, I mean I appreciate the shout out. I wasn't even gonna go, that far in depth. I felt like that was a good promo.
Yeah, I mean there is that, and then you'll have an article coming out soon about Kendall Wetta and the rest of the Colorado women's basketball team that started practice.
That's your article.
Yeah, my article. My bad. Probably should have clarified, but. I was there yesterday. Got to talk to JR. Got to talk to Kendall for the first time in the season cycle. And their non-conference schedule should be officially coming out tomorrow. And same for the Buffs conference schedule may be coming out tomorrow as well, for the men. And got to really dive deep into what the mindset is for the season, and you'll see some of what they said in my article tomorrow. So I guess we'll just leave it at that, and we'll get more in depth as we get further into the season and get closer and closer. We still got 6 weeks or so. But if you wanted to talk about the soccer team, because they are on an absolute tear right now, just mentioning their winning streak. What can you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, 9-1 on the season. As we keep, every time we talk about soccer, it's hard not to mention the 3 minutes against North Carolina that separated them from an undefeated season so far. But 8-game win streak after that loss, which is the longest in the NCAA at the moment, putting them at number 16 in the United Coaches Poll, which I think is
low-key should be higher.
I mean, yeah, they have a decent argument to be higher, in my opinion. And Aspen wrote a little write up on it, and he said he found that it was the highest ranking the highest national ranking they've had since 2018.
Oh.
So I mean, this is kind of what we expected from the soccer team this year, just because they just return so many players. It's not often that you return 19 of 24 players, and especially talented and are young at the same time. So they just have a great thing going.
Right, the continuity has been a huge factor in just keeping Nidus, and it wasn't really expected that Shira was going to come back. That was it was kind of I mentioned in my lone soccer article on our website that it could have been her last game against Texas A&M in the NCAA tournament, but obviously she didn't want to go out that way. So, came back and is really, while it has, and I think part of why it's been successful is that while she's been absolutely dominant, it hasn't been all her. It's just been someone that's found a goal, and the defense has done the rest.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting too because I mean Jordan Knight, she's been getting weekly recognition from the Big 12 at this point, just with how many of Big 12 goalkeeper of the week she's won. I mean, she's been a fantastic, set a record against Oklahoma State, even though she gave up a goal for the most consecutive minutes without allowing a goal by a Colorado goalkeeper ever. So I mean, she's been playing fantastic, but I mean, like you said, a lot of that is coming from the defense, just not allowing a lot of shots. I think if I'm not mistaken, against Iowa State, they only allowed, I think it was, I'd have to look exactly at the stats, but I know against Iowa State they played really well. And a lot, I don't know. I don't even think Knights had a save because they weren't able to get a shot on goal. So, I mean, the defense has been absolutely phenomenal, along with Knights' great play. Because I mean, when the defense has broken, it's created some really hard saves or some hard shots to save for Knights, and so for her to step through and come up with those big saves, and especially in clutch moments, as we've seen to begin Big 12 play, that's been huge. And then on the offensive side of things, they're really pushing the ball. They're working to, it's funny watching them play because you see there's not a lot of play in the middle of the field. It feels like one team or the other is getting a shot on net. And so with the Buffs and how talented they've been, especially with Shira, as you mentioned, Ava Priest has been playing super well. Hope Leba, Jace Hawley, she's stepped up as a freshman. I mean, Sammy Fisher, she's scored this year a few times, and I think she has an assist as well. But Emerson Lane had her first goal against Iowa State the other day. So I mean, there's plenty of names who are, Hope Leba and Ava Priest, like. Jace Hawley, those are some of the ones that have, keep showing up. Shira James as well, but some new names as well. And that's really been the key to success as far as this huge win streak and this great start to the season.
Yeah.
Heading into, Kansas or Baylor.
Baylor and Kansas, a nice little
Thursday,
homestand.
so.
Yeah, and you went on the road, dominated there. A lot of, Colorado team issues in varsity sports at least tend to be, awesome at home, struggle on the road, but it's been undefeating. They haven't been beaten on the road to this point. So, getting that momentum boost into the homestand with Baylor, Kansas, and then TCU the week after that should be really promising. You got to knock on wood with, how there's really nothing negative to say at this point, but you got to just hope that they stay consistent, especially with that level of defense. And overall, a lot going well for the soccer team, and I don't know how much there is to say about volleyball, right?
Yeah, I mean they've kind of had a weird year. They've lost some games that they haven't necessarily expected to lose. As we've heard from Jesse Mahoney, and in some cases not heard after losses. He's kind of frustrated with some of the missed opportunities that they've had this year for what they expect. Against CSU, the battle for the Golden Spike, they split the home and home series for the third straight year. And so, contrary to what you said about the Colorado varsity teams being good at home and bad on the road, it was flipped because they won in Fort Collins on the Thursday night, lost in Boulder on the Friday night last week. So, not really a good ending to non-conference play for them, or the ending that they would hope necessarily. But either way, they're starting up Big 12 play, and as we heard on media day, they're really excited. They have a decent amount of players with family from Big 12 country. So ultimately, not where they want to be, but still exciting nonetheless.
Yeah, no, definitely. And they'll be starting up against BYU tomorrow night or Thursday night, depending on when this goes up. And then Utah on Sunday. So should be an exciting time to see how they fare in conference play.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, we have club sports as always.
Baseball starting this weekend. I said I was going to go more in depth, but I guess I'll wait till after we start. But they play Air Force and a doubleheader on Saturday, and then finish off the series Sunday. And should be a rocking time, seeing how the fall ball is super low stakes, but it should be interesting to see how guys like Nathan Hoffman and Andrew Garcia come back, see where the pitching staff stands, and where the rotation will end up going with some senior losses. But yeah, overall, really excited to get back in the flow of things. You can catch all that action on our YouTube. I'll be calling. Me and Balin will be calling the majority of that, and then Colby, Xavier. Maybe you don't know all those names, but you'll get to know them.
Well, if you've been reading our website, if you're a true fan, you know already.
Well, to be honest, if you're a Skobos junkie, if you're this far into the podcast, you're probably a Skobos junkie.
Exactly. So
you'll know, you'll get to hear from all of us, and yeah, it should be a great weekend.
Yeah, no, definitely. Nick Evans always keeping up with the club sports as usual. Soccer, hockey as well. I made that sound like one sport, soccer, hockey.
Soccer,
hockey. And hockey.
We'll have hockey
keeping
and
up
soccer action, or maybe not soccer this weekend, but there's some hockey going on, and I believe it's just soccer and hockey and baseball. To my knowledge, that we're going to be live streaming. But either way, I think we're doing awesome right now.
Yeah, I think now that you say that, I think club soccer, I think they have a tournament.
They do. I don't know if we're going to be able to get out to all.
So yeah, we'll see, because they're all over campus. Tons of different teams. But either way, just keep up with the Skobos YouTube where you're watching this to catch the live streams, and our other social medias as well. But I think that's a good stopping point for us. I'm Oliver Hayes.
I'm Harrison Simeon.
And as always, you heard it here first. Peace.